We finally got a look at Spider-Man Far From Home thanks to the first trailer that was released not that long ago, and as expected, it looks pretty great. It does raise a few questions though, like how exactly is Spider-Man back? You know, after this whole situation. But that's a question for another video. Seriously, we probably have one coming. Theories are kind of our thing. The other big question that the trailer raises is, who the heck is that guy? Well, that is Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Mysterio. He's a character who's been around in the comics for a long time, and many die-hard fans are pretty excited to see him hit the big screen. The rest of you may have no idea who he is or what he can really do. Well, luckily for you, this video is here to change that. Let's start things off by going over the character's history, because even though none of it might have any impact at all on the upcoming film, we kinda just feel like nerding out a little bit. So just bear with us. We promise that it will be fun. Probably. Beck first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #2 way back in 1963, but he didn't don the iconic fishbowl until #13 in 1964. He was originally a special effects artist working in Hollywood, hoping to make a name for himself. But sadly, unless your name is Stan Winston, it's kind of hard to become famous for special effects, which, side note here, is a freaking travesty. Special effects artists are basically wizards, bringing the fantastical and often impossible to life on the big screen. Look at the monster effects in Clash of the Titans by Ray Harryhausen, or the work done on The Thing by Rob Bottin. Seriously, look at that weird head spider crab thing. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. It haunts my nightmares. We should all know who these people are, because that's talent. Getting back onto topic, Beck couldn't become famous doing special effects, so he tried to transition into acting, and he couldn't make that happen either, as he lacked the looks and talent to be a leading man. Admittedly, a problem that actor Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't really share with his MCU counterpart. When a friend offhandedly joked that the quickest way to become famous would be to take out a superhero, Beck decided to try his hand at that, and targeted Spider-Man because, at least at the time, he was still a fresh-faced little upstart, and Beck figured that he could probably take him. He was wrong, but he still sort of thought that way. His initial plan was to defeat Spider-Man in the guise of an alien being, and take his place as a costumed superhero. To this end, Beck began working under the pseudo-mentorship of the Tinkerer, a Spider-Man villain who actually made a small appearance in 2017's Spider-Man Homecoming. His plan didn't exactly come together as he had hoped, however, and the webhead promptly beat him. From there, Beck took on the mantle of Mysterio, a supervillain who utilized his talents with illusions to achieve his goals. Years passed, and the fishbowl-wearing criminal was never really able to get the upper hand over the wall crawler, even when teaming up with the other founding members of the notorious Sinister Six. The Sinister Six was a team of supervillains who all shared one common goal: to kill Spider-Man. Their master plan? To throw themselves at Spider-Man one after the other in hopes of tiring him out and eventually killing him. Yeah, you heard that right. This team of supervillains decided to go at the hero one at a time. One at a time.
Not a great plan.
Obviously, that didn't work out. But that being said, don't think that means that he's a weak or joke character. Far from it, as we'll cover right about now. Admittedly, calling this section of the video powers and weaknesses is sort of a mislead. Beck doesn't really have superpowers, and honestly, his weaknesses are the same ones you have. However, what he does have is a very particular set of skills, and like Liam Neeson, he uses said skills to beat his enemies. As we mentioned before, Beck is highly skilled at creating special effects. So what does that really mean? Well, as a VFX artist, Beck is one smart cookie. He is a master mechanical engineer, inventing numerous gizmos and gadgets, including some pretty advanced robotics, but we'll get to those later. Beck is also a highly skilled chemist, able to create some rather nasty hallucinogens, tricking his opponents into thinking they are seeing things, like when he made Wolverine think he was slaughtering a horde of invading supervillains during the Old Man Logan story arc, when he was actually just butchering members of the X-Men. Yeah, that's how powerful powerful and admittedly pretty messed up this guy can be. He is also experienced in stunt work, having needed to fill in as a stuntman on a few occasions, and is in pretty good physical condition, largely due to being required to keep himself fit as an actor. Because if you want to be a leading man on par with Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, you gotta look the part. Can't be all flabby and munching on chicken wings, as much as we would like that to be the case. I could have been a star. Speaking of being an actor, he is of course not too bad in that department, and has on a few occasions used his acting chops to trick his foes. When acting fails, however, he can always use hypnotism, of which he is trained in the art of. He isn't exactly a master of it, but he gets by, and to be honest, even a passing knowledge of it is probably effective enough, and certainly more than most average people can do. For example, can you hypnotize people? Oh, you can? Well, maybe you should consider becoming a supervillain yourself. Let me know how that goes. Now this right here is where Mysterio truly shines, his gadgets. As we talked about previously, Beck is quite the inventor. Unlike most inventors who make stuff like the ShamWow or those pans that are only really good for making those tiny, pointless cheeseburgers, Beck uses his inventions to decimate his foes. Now let's start off with that ridiculous thing he is wearing on his head. That is a one-way acrylic helmet, meaning he can see out of it, but others can't see in. And inside that helmet is a fancy heads-up display, not unlike the one we see Iron Man use in the MCU. That HUD gives him readouts on all sorts of other gizmos he uses during fights, including a set of nozzles that are attached to his gloves and boots that emit various hallucinogenic gases. These nozzles can also release a chemical mixture that Beck developed himself that effectively blocks Spider-Man's famous Spidey sense. Now with all those gases and mists and stuff hanging in the air, you'd imagine that it'd get kind of hard to see. Well, Beck's helmet features a sonar system, allowing him to detect any objects that are around him, including people, when he can't see normally. So maybe seeing within that ball isn't as hard as we all might actually think. Still probably a pain in the butt though. But what's beauty without pain? Beck even has a gun that fires a substance similar to Spider-Man's webbing. However, his webbing is not the same as Spidey's due to not fully understanding the formula. So technically in this case, he was bested by a high school chemistry student. That's brutal. Now we should probably finally talk about Mysterio's androids that we mentioned earlier. First up is the Android Mysterio. This bot was created by Beck and sent through a dimensional portal to the Ultimate Universe, in hopes of conquering that version of Earth. That didn't happen, but the Mysterio bot did manage to kill that universe's Kingpin, blasting him out of a skyscraper to fall to his death. So that's not too bad. Gotta give him at least a little bit of credit. And the other android that we're gonna talk about is Mysteria, aka Misty Beck. Misty was an android created by Beck and programmed to believe that she was actually his daughter, like his flesh and blood daughter. She spent her early years studying magic, becoming pretty good at it. She is capable of some majorly impressive bits of magic, such as causing an entire casino to disappear. So basically what we're saying is that if Beck himself doesn't get you with his hallucinogenic gases or illusions, he'll send a murder bot after you, which honestly might be worse. Still though, he isn't a character you'd want to take lightly, as if he gets a drop on a hero, he can definitely put them in a world of hurt, as we will hopefully see in Spider-Man Far From Home. Are you excited to see what Mysterio is up to on the big screen? What other characters would you like to see us break down like this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more great content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you at the movies.